to left. Done back. Out of here.
What an awesome start to the season for Giants fans. On today's episode of the Bay Area Beat, my old high school baseball teammate Satchel joins me to talk the Giants' fantastic 5-1 start. We get into their rotation already being top 5 in baseball, their clutch hitting with runners in scoring position, and I make my formal apology to Wilmer Flores for anything bad I've ever said about him. Now, for what you came here for. So as we're recording this, the Giants are up 6-3 in the 8th inning. I'm keep my eye on it right now on my TV, and they're on the verge of sweeping the Astros, moving to 5-1 on the season, all on the road. It's been a lot of great starting pitching, a lot of clutch hitting. They feel like they're finally playing smart, fun baseball for the first time in a while. At least for me, it feels like the pre-Kapler, Farhan Zaidi era. Feels like a team that's not relying on the Farhan analytics where it's either strikeout or home run, and that's the only outcomes. And they're playing a lot of small ball, showing off kind of the team's versatility. They've bunt for hits. They're 6th in the MLB in stolen bases. They got a few huge ones today against the Astros. Are the Giants the best team in baseball?
I mean, fuck yeah. I think they at least have some of the best vibes, which I think honestly is a big thing that the Giants have been missing. A little bit of, vibes, a little bit of swag. I feel like they've got a little more swag this year. And that was the big thing with, their dynastic run is that team just had elite vibes. Like they were never like the favorite ever, but like they were just like really good bros,
One of the cooler things that I just found out about yesterday was that Buster Posey all spring training long had former guys of the dynasty teams and even from prior, from the Bonds, Will Clark era, coming on, speaking to the guys, being guest coaches. That's something that's not tangible, and you can't say this led to that or this helped them lead to 5-1, but it is like what you said. It's this feeling of this swag and this vibe shift around the team that genuinely to me feels like you can see it, and it's awesome. I finally feel motivated and excited about a Giants team for, in my opinion, the first time since 2021, which is just so fun to have a good team 162 times a year.
Well, and that's the thing too, is honestly, like for me, I think it's maybe even the first time since 2016, because that 21 team came out of nowhere.
Completely.
Right? It's like before the season, we were like, yeah, the Giants are doing it this year.
They're going to win 108 games.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they came out and did what they did. But like this year, like this is the first time in a long time I remember like before the season being like, oh, they might have something here. And like right now, at least the start to the season has been pretty much the best case scenario for them. And like a lot of their like, or at least a few of their main contributors haven't even got going yet. Like Willie Adames is off to a slow start right now. Lamont Wade hit a home run in this game for his first hit of the year. But there's room for growth, at least on offense. And the pitching has been great, and that was what this team was built around. And, now the question is, especially with some of the guys in the starting rotation, is can they keep it up?
Totally. Yeah, it's a lot of great pitching, strong defense behind them, which we saw. That was one of their biggest issues last year. I want to touch a little more on your kind of clutch factor you mentioned. So a few stats to bring up. Giants right now with no outs are hitting about, and I want to preface these stats by saying this was a day old, so some of them have probably moved a little bit. But the Giants with no outs are hitting about $122. With one out, they're hitting 256. With 2 outs, they're hitting 286 with a 570 slugging, which is top 5 in baseball. Now, looking at it with runners in scoring position, with no outs, they're hitting 200, again, well below average. With 2 outs, they're hitting 533 with a 1200 slugging, by far the best in Major League Baseball. They are just in general with runners in scoring position hitting 400 with an 800 slugging. So I guess my question is like, who is this team? This is not who we've seen the last couple of years.
Dude, I don't know. And as someone who, is at a lot of their games and watches this team very closely, they're unrecognizable. Like last year, honestly, and this is what I've told a lot of people, when they've asked for my opinion on how the season would go. It's like, do I think they're going to keep up with the Dodgers? Not necessarily, but I do think they can make the playoffs because honestly, last year, being at those games, they were like 1 or 2 swings away from winning like 10 to 15 more games last year. Like, especially early in the season, they had so many like bases loaded, nobody out opportunities that they couldn't cash in on in really important times. And it just seems like, at least so far, that hasn't been as much of an issue. And that was always, I think, the thing that was so frustrating watching that team from LA was that like they always seemed to come through when they needed to, and it felt like no matter what, the Giants just could not do it. And so if they can find a way to consistently do that this year, their pitching is going to keep them in games. And like if they can just get a few hits when somebody gets to second base, like this could be a great year for Giants baseball.
Sorry, I got a little distracted there. Once you said the team from LA, I was like, I'm stealing that. We're no longer calling them the D words. They're the team from LA. So last time I recorded a podcast, it was a week ago. It was a couple days before opening day. And one of my criticisms of the team was the fact that Wilmer Flores, for the fourth year in a row, would be the starting DH with Gerard Encarnacion injured. He felt like a Farhan guy. He felt like an analytics guy where his numbers or what his analytics showed, I didn't really see on the baseball field. And hand up, I'm an idiot. I was dead wrong. He's making me look like an idiot more and more with every single at-bat he takes. He's right now tied with Aaron Judge, if you've ever heard him, for second in Major League Baseball, 4 home runs. And granted, Judge hit 3 of his 4 in one game. Not with a torpedo bat, he claims, but 3 in one game. It ties the amount of home runs Wilmer hit last year in 71 games at 4. And I think he's just kind of solidified the everyday DH role, at least until Gerard Encarnacion comes back. But even so, like, how can you argue with a guy with a 1200 OPS?
First of all, I think one of the things you underrated, Wilmer Flores, elite vibes guy. Everybody loves Wilmer. He's got the Friends theme song when he comes up to the plate. It's just just almost never a bad vibe when Wilmer steps into the batter's box. And you mentioned those 4 home runs he hit. He's the first Giant since Barry Bonds in 2002 to hit 4 home runs in his first 6 games, which I think this could be a year where we hear a lot of, this is the first time since Barry Bonds.
I like that. Let's continue on that trend. So speaking of Barry Bonds stats, this one actually beats anything that Barry Bonds ever did. Another guy who's just been absolutely raking is Elliot Ramos, which has been awesome to see. As everyone knows, he's the 19th straight different left fielder starting for the Giants on opening day. They haven't had a repeat since Bonds in 06, 07. But he has done something these first 6 games of the season that Barry Bonds never did as a Giant. He joined Felipe Alou and Willie Mays as the only Giants in franchise history to open the season with an extra base hit in 6 games. If he does want to, hit another double or another bomb come Giants home opener, he would break the franchise's record. No one's ever done it 7 straight games. And one of the cool things for me to watch is, although he made the All-Star team last year and it was probably one of the lone bright spots on the lineup, he clearly had a hole in his bat when it came to right-handed pitching. And this year, all 3 of his home runs have come against righties. He's hitting .304 on the season. He's got, like we mentioned, the 6 extra base hits. He's got a 1,100 OPS, the 3 home runs, and it's awesome. I mean, he's fully on pace again to repeat and be another All-Star.
He's been just so fun to watch. And I mean, the thing that impressed me so much about him was that, his perseverance, because I mean, he went through a lot making his way through the system to get up here. But also, I was at the game last year where he hit that first right-handed splash hit. And that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in person. Like, he took a 99-100 mile an hour fastball into the bay from the right side. I'd always liked the guy before then, but that was like just one of the most awestruck times I've ever had at the ballpark. And I've seen a lot of great things at the ballpark. And I think he's going to finally be the one to break that streak and start 2 years in a row in left field. And I think, he was on pace last year to maybe, before he kind of fell off in the second half, to maybe even hit 30 home runs last year, even missing the first month and a half. And I think this year might be the year that he is the first Giant to hit 30 since Barry.
I think we might have a few guys, hopefully him, Chappie. I don't know if Wilmer's going to keep up this pace. It would be awesome if so. Even a guy like Adames, who, like you said, is slowly seems like he's kind of ramping up. He got an extra base hit yesterday. He has a lot of really good at-bats, whether he's walking or just forcing 8-9 pitch at-bats. Just shows how good of a hitter he can be, even when he's kind of in a little bit of a slump. One cool thing I've heard about Ramos is that the Giants right now are looking to extend him. We saw Ketel Marte. I'm blanking on the Red Sox prospect that just got signed to that 8-year mega extension. And that's becoming a theme in baseball is locking up your young stars and not having to go through that arbitration process and kind of severing some sort of relationship there, and even getting a few years after their 6 years of service time. I think that would be awesome. His price tag's probably getting more expensive with every home run he hits, but he is the type of guy that I think the Giants should build around. And I think he has a large enough sample size. Again, we're 6 games in the season, but combining it with last year where I think he is a franchise left fielder for the Giants.
Oh, definitely. And I think like the Padres really kind of started this trend when they signed Fernando Tatis to that like 14-year mega deal years ago. It's mostly worked out for them. You know, he's missed some time with some of his behavior and
motorcycle
steroids
accidents
and stuff,
and
motorcycle accidents and needles and all that.
Right.
But in general, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, if you think you've got a guy, why not invest in him? You know, like if you're extremely confident that this guy is going to be a cornerstone player for you, why not just commit? And then you don't have to worry about it. You know, and then he doesn't have to worry about it. He can just go play. The contract doesn't come up till way down the line. And then by that point, maybe he's just going to re-sign no matter what because he's been with you for so long. Also, as we're doing this, the Giants did close out the win.
Let's go.
So they're officially 5-1.
Swept the Astros in Houston, baby.
In Houston. They're keeping up right now. And I hope they extend Ramos. I hope he's around for a long time. And just with everything going on around the Giants, I cannot wait for Friday at Oracle.
You'll be there?
I will be there in the control room on my nice little perch looking out at the bay. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, so if anyone listening to this is at opening day on Friday and you see when the Giants just start scoring their runs and are up 8-0 hopefully by the 4th inning, that's my man Satchel who will be updating the scoreboard for you and handling business.
Yeah, let me know. Hit me up. Shoot me a message or a DM. I might be able to get you on the Jumbotron. So let me know.
Oh, look at you! Right on. So we talked about the bats. Only other guys I kind of want to mention is I am starting to feel like we might be on the verge of a Luis Matos breakout if he can get the at bats he needs. He hit a home run today. He's right now that 4th outfielder. Yaz hasn't been great the start of the season, so I think that role coupled with the DH might be up for grabs. I don't really know, frankly, why Wilmer Flores is the DH in these situations where they're not playing Lamont Wade. Like Casey Schmidt today had an error. He misplayed another play at first. Wilmer Flores has 1,700 games at first base in his career. Like, why are we trying something new in the middle of the regular season?
As much as I would like to agree with you and tend to agree with your reasoning, Wilmer Flores of late especially has not necessarily been a stellar defender. So I can understand at least the thought process between putting a guy who's been a solid infield defender at other positions out there and seeing if he can figure it out. Because the Giants have kind of been experimenting with first base ever since Brandon Belt left. We'll see if they decide to change their thought process on that, or maybe, you know, once Bryce Eldridge gets healthy, he plays his way onto the roster, and maybe they're saving that spot for him. But
don't tease me.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? But no, I mean, Matos breaking out would be great. I mean, we've seen flashes from him, right? Like I was at a lot of those games last year when he won Player of the Week, and it was like, man, this guy can't be stopped, and he's got it in there. The biggest key, I think, for the Giants this year is they have a solid group of young players who have shown flashes here or there that if they can just be a little bit more consistent, like this, it will go such a long way for this team. Like if Fitzgerald, Ramos, Patrick Bailey can just like hold it together for the full season, this team could be really something.
I can't wait. We're going to hop into the rotation in a moment right now, but want to just make a little bold prediction. I think Wilmer Flores, when we wake up tomorrow morning, or maybe it's Friday morning, will be the National League Player of the Week, as you mentioned, all those Matos ones. So you heard it here first when it happens. But moving into the rotation a little bit. So Logan Webb pitched last night. He totally got back to his old self. I think forced 3 double plays with his cutter, which is really unique. It's a cutter that, as a right-handed pitcher, you know, that usually goes from right to left. It kind of jams lefties, but his cutter is the complete opposite. It goes from left to right. He threw it so far this season. He's thrown it 25 times. He's had 1 ball put in play on it, 0 hits, an expected batting average of .028, just to show kind of how fantastic that pitch is. I think he threw it like 84 times last year for a below 100 average. So it's It's a pitch he didn't have earlier in his career, but it seems like he's getting more and more comfortable with it. And if Logan Webb, who's already has a Cy Young runner-up and a third place in his resume, can develop another A pitch, sky's the limit for him.
I mean, he's already such a great guy. And I think that's the thing, too. Pitchers are constantly reinventing themselves, and they kind of have to, especially guys who don't necessarily have like elite velocity, like Logan. Like, he'll touch 95 every once in a while, but for the most part, he gets you out by making you hit the ball on the ground, or he makes you miss with that changeup, and so like just adding dimensions is just going to make him all that more dangerous. And, I think opening day is always a bit of a struggle for him. Like he's gotten a few opening day starts and he's always been decent, but not fully himself. And seeing him lock in against the Astros last night was great. And I think this staff right now, with just the way that they're playing, I think they're feeding off of each other. And I think that could really become an infectious thing throughout the year. It's just like, you don't want to be the guy who puts up a stinker when everybody else is throwing 6 or 7 innings of one-run ball, and I think if they can really just like play off of each other the way they have so far to start the year, this pitching staff could be one of the best in baseball.
If Robbie Ray and Jordan Hicks can be 75% of who they've been in their first starts, granted, I know Robbie Ray got roughed up at the end of his outing. Like, this is a top 5 rotation in baseball. You have your ace at the top. You have a Justin Verlander who looked great in his first start, and I know he's the only one so far with a loss on his record, or he might have not got credit for the loss, but doesn't have the win. And then you have guys like Jordan Hicks, who last year was amazing the first third of the season and then just clearly ran out of gas. I think he's going to be, we talked about X factors with the Warriors, and I think that's the Brandon Podjemski, and I think that's Moses Moody. I think one of the key X factors for this team is Jordan Hicks and how long he can actually go into the season, throwing 100 in the first inning and hitting 98 in the 6th inning.
That was, such an exciting thing at the early part of last year was he looked so great. He was doing all of those things. And then, he ran out of gas. And even out of the bullpen, when they moved into the bullpen, it just didn't quite have the same velocity. And so, he's bulked up. And I think part of it, too, was he was kind of conserving energy at times as it got later in the year. And that's the thing that I've heard that they've told him is just put it all out there, and we'll be fine. The Giants have a great bullpen, and I'm sure we'll touch on that in a moment. But, I mean, if he's bulked up enough that he can keep this pace throughout the whole year, I mean, he's going to be a great pitcher. And to have him as your number 4 starter, the guy coming out throwing 100-mile-an-hour sinkers is an insane weapon to have.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even hate if he can pitch every 6th day and the Giants here and then can have a spot start from Hayden Birdsong or Kyle Harrison when he gets his groove back. They have one of the best rotations in AAA too, along with Hayden Birdsong, who's just waiting to get his opportunity behind Roop and whatnot. I really wouldn't be mad if the Giants take a super conservative approach and just kind of let him get 6 innings every 6th day, even if it's 5 days, not really ramp him up. And we know Logan Webb can go 7 or 8 deep, but we don't need Jordan Hicks being a Cy Young candidate for April and May and then being in the rotation the rest of the season because he just can't find his footing.
They've already started to do that this week. I mean, they started Roop today and Webb yesterday because they have that off day. And so I think, taking advantage of any early pockets of rest to try to stretch out their pitching staff is going to be huge. But just the fact that they're in a spot this year where hopefully they won't have to use any openers this year is music to my ears, because also just like as someone who is at a lot of these games, it's just like it gets so tough when they're changing pitchers like every inning from starting from the beginning. And it's taxing on the bullpen. I mean, Eric Miller last year, he was one of the league leaders in innings as a rookie because they needed him to be. And I think that's going to be huge, too, is if they could just use him exclusively as like a bullpen guy and not have to open with him, that's going to be huge, especially because he's the only lefty in their bullpen.
I'm glad you brought up Eric Miller. He was awesome the other night. He struck out Yordan Alvarez in a huge spot, keep the lead. Like you said, he's the only lefty in the bullpen. The Giants only have 2 lefties on the pitching staff with him and Robbie Ray. How do you think they kind of manage that, having only 1 lefty and manage matchups where you typically go lefty on lefty batters, and it just feels like he's on a path to be overused. He pitched 3 of the first 4 games of the season.
I don't know that they'll necessarily have to, because I mean, a lot of their right-handed arms they're good and they can get both sides of the plate out. And so it's one of those things where I think, they're going to have to pick their spots. And single out a guy like, today it was Jordan Alvarez. At some point it's going to be, Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman. But like, you're going to have to pick a spot and be like, okay, this is their guy. This is probably going to be his most significant at bat. This is when we use Eric Miller. And especially against, the team from LA, because he has owned Shohei Ohtani. Like, that's going to be a must-see matchup this year, because I know Shohei Ohtani's aware of it. I know Eric Miller's aware of it. And for a white guy, he's got some swag out there.
The Shohei stopper. He really is.
Yeah.
He blew one by Jordan Alvarez and just painted the corner. I think he's one of my favorite guys in the bullpen. The whole bullpens look great outside of Spencer Bivens, but it's been really promising. Robbie Ray looked really good before he got roughed up. I think he had a perfect game through 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe both. It was a dueling perfect game going into the 5th inning of that game. How often do you see that?
I missed like the first 45 minutes. I was either at work or doing something. I was like, all right, cool. It's got to be the 3rd or 4th inning, and it was mid 5th inning, and I was like, how in the world is this game going by that fast? But I guess when not a single guy has a base runner, that happens. I think the Giants are eventually going to need him to go deeper in games, but I was very happy with how the outing went. I know he gave up the 2 home runs in the 5th inning when he clearly was worn down, but I think he showed a lot of promise today. And another guy I thought showed a lot of promise. I wanted to get your take on, what did you think of watching Landon Roop for the first time this season?
He looked good early, and I mean, he started to run out of gas. I think he and Robbie Ray had similar outings in the sense that they were great, but they did get into a lot of 3-ball counts and had to throw a lot of pitches, and so they kind of ran out of gas. But Landon Roop's another guy like Jordan Hicks, where like they can kind of piggyback Hayden Birdsong off of him. So, just go out there and do what you can. I mean, he looked good. He's added a changeup that he's been throwing more consistently, and a cutter. And I mean, he looked great. The curveball, which is what got him here, has been still relatively unhittable. And, he earned this spot with his great spring. And I think even though he didn't qualify for the win today, I think he's going to be a great number 5.
Absolutely. I mean, he struck out the side to start the game when he was fresh. He had Altuve and Alvarez looked foolish. They both swung and missed. He had 8 Ks, I think, through 4 innings before he got a little bit roughed up. What do you think the Giants do with Hayden Birdsong? It's kind of a weird situation where he barely, I think, lost the job to Roop. They were both terrific in the spring. He's clearly the first man up if someone gets hurt or if someone starts underperforming. And I think behind that's like the Kyle Harrisons of the world. But it's kind of a weird situation to just have him in the bullpen. And, he's the long reliever, but if all 5 starters in a away stand all pitch 5 or 6 innings deep, he doesn't really have a spot. And I think they need to kind of continue to have him ramped up, continue to have him ready to go in a starting rhythm.
I think they're maybe banking on the fact that they're just probably going to have to use him a little bit, in a game like today. They might just have to throw him into a game for an inning just to get him out there, And I mean, they've had to use a lot of their bullpen early in the season. So, I mean, he might just be thrust in just by kind of the virtue of the attrition. But he's got an arm that can handle both. But I think if you want him to be able to stretch out, you're going to have to stretch him out every once in a while. And so I am interested to see like how they kind of find that balance and figure that out. It's baseball. It's a long year. Like someone's probably going to get hurt at some point and they'll slide him in. But I think as long as everyone stays healthy, I mean, he'll get his opportunities when they come. And he deserves to get some opportunity because he seemed like he figured a lot of things out in the offseason and in the spring. And I'm looking forward to seeing his development this year.
And he's only 23. I saw that this morning when I was kind of doing a little research for the pod. That blew my mind. Like he's 3 years younger than Roop. He's the youngest guy on the staff by a handful of years. So he has time and has a few options if they need to send him back down to AAA. But I'm very excited for just what this rotation can be. You're going to see, I guess, Justin Verlander live on opening day on Friday. One, what did you think of his outing against the Reds? Any takeaways? What are your thoughts about having a 42-year-old as the second man in a key rotation?
He looked like Justin Verlander for the most part. I mean, I know it was a shorter outing by his standards, but it was, first outing of the year, and he only gave up 2 earned runs. He looked pretty good, and he's been pretty consistent throughout spring. And I think, with him and Robbie Ray being older guys who have had arm issues in the past, I think, they're going to get better as the season goes on, as they might take a little bit longer to ramp up as they're a little bit on the older side or a little bit more worn down. But I mean, he looked good, and I'm excited to see him take the mound in Oracle in front of a sold out crowd on Friday.
Absolutely. And I think it's just great to see him be that veteran mentor for the younger guys. I think that's another thing we talk about, like intangible things. That's something where you will not be able to quantify how it affects Landon Roop and Hayden Birdsong, but it's just having a guy who's been at the absolute top of his craft, 3-time Cy Younger, giving you feedback on pitches, being in the pitcher's room 200 times a year is going to be incredible. So I think that's all the Giants questions I had. One kind of funny topic of, I think probably the biggest national topic in baseball right now is these torpedo bats. What's your take?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, it's so hard to hit a baseball now. Every team's got 5 guys who can throw 100. And, I think the other thing about it, too, is a lot of the noise, at least, came out of that Yankees-Brewers series. But, I mean, I don't know how much there is to make of that when it's like, A, Yankee Stadium's a bandbox. B, the Yankees have, like, 4 or 5 guys on their team who have had 20 homer seasons. So the fact that they're hitting a lot of home runs in the small stadium during mostly day games doesn't surprise me. And also, I saw a stat somewhere, I think it said that the Brewers had the lowest average fastball velocity in Major League Baseball. And so, if you're throwing it up there at 88 to Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger and Jazz Chisholm, like, yeah, they're going to hit some home runs.
Especially in that park.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if there really isn't enough data necessarily to say that the torpedo bats are, like, making a huge difference, but it's got everybody curious, and count me as one of them.
I think I'm all for it. It's innovation, anything to help the offense in my eyes gets my vote. Like, we've seen, I want to call it the post-Bond steroid era, like every rule change or even just the way the game's been played has benefited the pitcher. And if we find something that's legal and that every team can use, and it increases home runs by 10% across the season, like I'm all for it. Like, everyone's going to use it. Everyone has the same opportunity. Like, the cat's out of the bag. The Yankees are not the only team in baseball now with this MIT physicist who's designing bats in a lab. And I'm going to get to see it firsthand next week. I'll be going to Giants Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So I'll get to see whether it's the bats, whether it's the stadium, or whether the Yankees have 9 guys on the roster who either strike out or home run every at bat.
You might be seeing the battle of the torpedo bats. I've heard some noise that the Giants might be trying them out soon. I might see them in person this weekend. But, I mean, I think the other thing with this, and this was always my argument with, a lot of people who, hate on Barry Bonds, is like, at a certain point, you still have to be able to hit the ball, Like, whatever you're using, not that I'm pro steroids, but, like, whatever you're using, you still have to be able to make solid contact. Like, no bat is going to influence you that much. Like, you still have to barrel it for the most part. And so I'm like, if we give these guys a little bit extra edge when they're facing Paul Skeens, so be it,
Totally. If we can get games to be 5-3 rather than 4-3 average, like, let's make it happen.
Yeah, why not?
I think this was all the questions, all the conversation points of topic I had, Satchel. This was awesome. I really enjoyed kind of rekindling, getting to chat Giants and Warriors.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome anytime. I want you back for either Warrior playoffs, or we'll do a mid-April Giants recap. Do you have anything to plug for me?
Yeah, I've got just a few broadcasts coming up. My last broadcast of the year with Academy of Art, doing a softball doubleheader for them on April 18th. You can find the link to the stream on their website. And the last ever sporting event on the campus of Sonoma State, they're hosting the CCAA softball tournament, their conference softball tournament. I believe that starts April 30th on Flow Sports. Check that out. Should be some fun playoff softball, and it'll be a historic event as we close down Sonoma State.
Hell yeah, you heard it here first. So we got Sonoma State softball. You want to see the last ever game at Sonoma State? Satchel's going to be in the broadcast booth. He's also, like he said, going to be in the scoreboard operator room for the Giants. So, reply to the pod, either in the comments of Spotify or YouTube if you want to get on the Jumbotron, and maybe Satchel can make it happen.
Absolutely, man.
Great chatting, Satch. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Definitely. All right, you too, man.
Now, if you made it to the end of the episode, I want to say thank you. If you don't mind subscribing and maybe even dropping a like, you'll become my new best friend. I produce these Bay Area sports podcasts twice a week, and I'm looking to grow my audience as much as I can. You can find the audio version of the podcast on Spotify or Apple Pods at the Bay Area Beat, and on YouTube at Bay Area Beat. You can also find short clips on all socials under the same name. Thanks again for listening. Catch you all next week.